Doctor Who month seems to have sped right by, hasn't it? We've looked at the TV film, my favourite classic and new Who stories, and a webcam review of Day of the Doctor, but now Doctor Who month comes to an end as I rate the 11 incarnations. And before you say anything, no, I'm not counting John Hurt, because he really only appeared in one thing. But the way this is going to work is, I'm going to post an image of the Doctor from least favourite to favourite, and give a 1 or 2 line reason for saying this. Well, close enough to 1 or 2 lines. Probably about 30 seconds. Depends. So, let's get underway. Yes, I know Paul McGann did more than the TV film. He appeared in a crap drum of audio dramas for starters, but I'm really counting TV and on-screen for each of the incarnations. That's my main focus, and as we all know, Paul McGann only did the TV film. Imagine if Doctor Who had been more of a success and it would have been brought back. Imagine some of the adventures McGann could have been on. But, as I say, it's nothing against McGann. He's a terrific actor, he's terrific as the 8th Doctor, but his only one screen appearance counts against him. And the same reason goes for Christopher Eccleston. Again, a terrific actor, but he only made 1 full season. And for starters, he announced he was leaving only after the first episode was aired, so... But as I say, terrific actor, terrific episodes, let down really by his only 1 season. I mean, imagine how Rose's 2nd season and last full season could have been if Christopher Eccleston was the Doctor and not David Tennant. Imagine Doomsday with Eccleston instead of Tennant. Just imagine it. And now we come to William. Again, a terrific actor, but some of his stories were just a real letdown. And he was kind of the reason. I mean, I can understand in the later seasons because he was, starting to suffer from illness, starting to forget his lines and everything, but as I say, he's a terrific actor, but some of the stories let him down. And not to be really unfair, but he's let himself down for some of the stories, particularly towards the end. I mean, The War Machines, which is the final episode of final story of his 3rd season, was just really terrible, and Hartnell didn't quite help it. No disrespect towards him, but he didn't quite help some of his more poorer stories. It was always going to be hard to top Tom Baker after he'd done 7 years on the show, and Peter Davison did an okayish job. I mean, Castroval was not exactly his greatest opening story, or not exactly the best opening story for any Doctor, but still, Davison's done some terrific stories. I mean, Earthshock, 5 Doctors, Caves of Androzani. Now those are some terrific stories, and he's brilliant, Peter Davison is, in those 3, but as I say, he's really let down by some really bad ones. Cough, cough, Castrovalva, Time Flight, King's Demons, and Warriors of the Deep. And in this case, a tie. John Pertwee, who has held Doctor at my favourite Doctor Who story ever, and Colin Baker, a fantastic Doctor with fantastic potential, just let down by a silly costume and some really bad scripts. Well, some scripts, but I'll start with John. First Doctor in colour, and he does a terrific job. His on-screen interactions with his companions and Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart are just hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And he's also the Doctor to have used the phrase, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow, because it was used in one line He heard some people say that he loved it so much he insisted it was incorporated to at least every script. And, of course, Colin, as I say, completely underrated Doctor, just let down by a silly costume, some silly scripts, and the fact that Michael Gray was doing everything in his power to get rid of the show. Boo hiss to Michael Gray. But as I say, admittedly his first full season was a bit violent, but it gave Baker the potential to come out. I mean, he was eccentric, he was theatrical, he was action-packed in some cases, and, well, that's all I can really say. Underrated, had a ton of potential, could have gone on forever, if only the powers of the BBC, but as I say, particularly Michael Gray, wasn't trying to get rid of the show entirely. And now, on to the top 5, and we start with pretty much the Doctor who I grew up watching, David Tennant. What can you say about David Tennant? He's funny, he can be dark, he's action-packed, he's hilarious, just everything positive word you can say. Many of my friends who I know declare Tennant to be the best, but as I say, he was let down by some Doctor-light written episodes and some rather silly episodes. For instance, Blink. He was hardly in it. People claim it's the best episode ever, but really, in my view, it's a load of crap. I just did not like it, mainly down to the fact that David Tennant was hardly in it. And as for some episodes having or being poorly scripted, Love and Monsters and Fear Her. Love and Monsters was another Dr. Light episode and suffered as a result, and Fear Her was just utterly dire. Even Tennant couldn't save it. But as I say, he's a good Doctor, and nothing more, nothing less of praise for the man who I grew up with. And of course, the longest standing Doctor, pulling in a full 7 seasons. And throughout that, he had quite a few different personalities. In his first 3, he had a bit of a dark, action-packed-esque feeling of himself, probably down to producer Philip Hinchcliffe, who was quite dark and violent on his time. Then it goes to light-hearted and humourful, begun to Graham Williams. And finally, his final season, a bit of both, though, as I say, he was starting to get a bit boring in his final season. I mean, as for the public, he'd done 7 years, it looked like he'd never stop. But he did stop, and his final story, Logopolis, I might point out, quite entertaining, quite action-packed and entertaining, and you sort of do start to feel for Tom Baker's Doctor, because he comes full circle with a round of action, humour, and dark humour. That's all I can really say. Patrick Troughton. The man who inspired Matt Smith's bow tie, apparently. But Troughton is quite action-packed as well. One of his first stories was like Pat Troughton acted in it, and it's like an action-packed Bond chase. But also at the same time, he was full of humour, full of laughiness. At least one of his episodes in the stories I've seen featuring Troughton have maybe stifled a laugh, a snigger, or even just a plain smile. You could never fail to put a smile on your face when you're watching a story. For instance, The Invasion. Because, well, The Invasion, he appears shocked at the return of Cybermen, but there just have his funny moments, including meeting the new Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart in Part 2. And my favourite overall classic Doctor, completely underrated, Sylvester McCoy. At first, as you would for the first season, McCoy did have a bit of an eccentric, unusual personality, but as of Remembrance of the Darks all the way through to Survival, his personality did start to take a bit of a dark turn. Darker and unusual approach to defeat his villains, even in some cases twisting the character of his companion, in order to defeat the villain, as you can see in the Curse of Fenric. Most humour is downgraded completely. Just a darker twist, a darker personality for the Doctor, and one that hasn't been attempted, and probably won't be until Peter Capaldi turns up, which will be in about less than 4 weeks from this recording date. And now, on to my favourite Doctor, and I think you can all guess who it is. Matt Smith. My god, he is everything. He's jolly, he has some dark interpretations, he's action-packed, and, well, a bit of everything. I mean, his performance in the 11th Hour was just, you couldn't help but laugh every bit, because he goes from trying bits of types of food, to shock her to seeing a grown-up Amelia Pond, nickname, well, Amy Pond, and then eventually feeds them with her help, and then turns up 2 years after that, so it's been like 14 years since Fish Custard. And of course, well, as you all know, Matt Smith used to do a bit of footballing, but had to give it up when he broke his leg before coming into acting. In his first season story, The Lodger, he does a fantastic turn as a footballer. But in response to a comment about thrashing someone or annihilating someone, he does take a bit of a dark to apologetic turn, as in saying, "I'm the Doctor, I'm the oncoming storm," before realising he was just talking about football. Big goof there. And so, Doctor Who month is at its end. I hope you enjoyed it. And next month, December, sees my first Christmas month. And I'm going to do something a bit unusual. I am going to let you choose whatever film I am to review about the month of December for the first 3 weeks. The last cinematic critique episode will be reserved for the Doctor Who Christmas special, which sees Matt Smith regenerate. Hope you enjoyed the review, and write below in the comment box what you want to see me review for Christmas month.